G'day and welcome back to Let's Dissect a couple of games of Star Realms. So this one is a mode which I rarely use. So it's against a random online, so using the matchmaking. It's also against someone in real time. So there's two options when you create a game. There is you must make a move at least once every 2 days. So these games can last quite a while. They can also go very quickly if you're both playing at the same time. The other one is you have at most 3 minutes. It's in fact faster now. It used to be 3-minute turns. Now it seems to be like 2 minutes, but you get a timer that each time you end your turn you get a little bit of time added onto it. I don't know exactly how it works. I don't use it very often, and you can't see it in the replay. So let's start. So who got first turn? They got first turn. They got the worst starting hand. I hate this hand. 1 cash, which often will buy you nothing on the board, literally, and 2 damage. Woo! On the other hand, I got the worst starting hand that I could get, which is 3 cash, 2 damage. But I can buy Convoy Bot with that, which will allow me to kind of thin out my deck. So, you know, definitely a better first turn for me than for them. They grab Fortress Oblivion, also will let them scrap cards, and gives them 2 cash left over for an Explorer, which is not a bad choice. With my 5 cash, because worst starting hand as player 2 means you get the best hand for your turn 2, so I can afford the Hive here. Unfortunately, Recondo gets no such guarantees, which is why... wait, no, actually he does. He got the worst starting hand. That does mean he got a 5 cash second hand. So he gets Battleworld, and then that's about it. I, with the Hive, get the Bioformer, so I'm starting to move more into green, and hopefully can use that ally ability. So his Fortress Oblivion, definitely helping him out by getting rid of one of his Vipers, and he gets a Fed Shuttle. So he's had 1 cash left over, which isn't ideal, but getting rid of the Viper was probably a better choice anyway, long term. So here I've got the Convoy Bot. The Convoy Bot is being used to get rid of a Viper over one of the Scouts, because generally speaking that 1 damage isn't going to do much, whereas 1 cash may actually really help. And I'm buying that Ram with my 3 cash that's left over, taking out his Fortress and kind of keep going. And next turn, so they got themselves an Explorer, and what else? Oh, they got the Star Market. Yep, I mean, again, both of their bases are ones that only trigger the turn they go down, or if another base goes down, which isn't great, but they're fairly powerful effects when they do trigger, and I have to take out his Fortress Oblivion because it's an outpost. I can't ignore it. I can potentially ignore a Star Market, although it's generally not a great idea to do so. So I grab a Battle Pod and I scrap my Scout because there's nothing on the board that I want for one, and you know, I would like to make sure I draw. Like, I'm just trying to be efficient here. That 1 damage is actually useful, hopefully. Okay, so he gets a Cunning Captain and just straight away uses it, which is interesting because I don't think it really is worth it at this stage to make me discard 1 card. Maybe it is, but here, oh no, 1 card. Look, I draw that Scout anyway. I've got a total of 3 cash, and so with the discard, I can, I then actually get rid of both Bioformer and the Ram to get Factory World. So he didn't actually do anything that would have changed that. That one cash did nothing. And the reason I do this is because Factory World is really powerful. Gives you 3 cash, which is nice. It blocks 6 damage, also nice. But it means the next purchase you make that turn goes straight to your hand. You get it that turn, unlike like most other purchases in the game. That's a hugely powerful effect, significantly more powerful than Capital Worlds. You get to draw a card, and definitely was glad to get it. Here they're definitely showing off that they've got more fed stuff, and they get to trigger those abilities. They're getting to heal 10 authority this turn and able to afford other bases, so they're in a good shape too. I need to try and get rid of some of the higher cost cards that I don't really want, especially ones I don't want him getting, and I need to get rid of his bases. Fortress Oblivion here manages to get in the way and stop me from doing much, but the orbital platform will come in handy for filtering my cards, because I've got a little bit of scrap, but a little bit of scrap and the ability to get through cards is nice. And here they're just gonna make a purchase for 4, which not a great turn for them either. So now I've got Factory World, and Factory World, I don't have the best set of cards to buy from here, because if I had a little bit more, I could have bought like Death World, especially if I had like an Explorer other than a Viper. I could have literally bought the Leviathan, but instead I buy the Corvette. It's better than nothing. There's no point I'll be sad to see the Corvette, and that gives me enough cash to also get the trade wheel, and yeah, that's it. Not going to buy an Explorer, and I'm set up for a really nice turn next turn. What do? They get Command Center, they get that Peacekeeper, so I know the Factory World is dead, and they've got exactly enough cash to buy up the command ship or command carrier. I think I'd remember these things by now. Command ship, yes, so that's always a nice card, especially though when they've got a lot of blue. It's going to get to destroy bases for free. It's always good to gain a little bit of authority and to draw 2 cards. Definitely a good buy. I mean, I've got a lot of green. I'd probably get Leviathan over it, but only because I have all that green. So they destroyed that Fed World. Not too sad. I finally scrapped that last Viper, and I get to draw a bunch of cards off of the Hive and the Predator, and then I can use the orbital platform to cycle right now. And I get a Scout. Not the best. Whatever. I scrap. I would have loved to get the Embassy Yacht, but instead I had to scrap it. Oh well. Win some, lose some, destroy all his bases, do a little bit of damage to him, and keep going. And they choose to get rid of the orbital platform over the Hive. Not the worst choice, although because the orbital platform is consistently useful, but I've got enough blob cards that it probably would have been better to get rid of the Hive over that, because I'm going to get to draw a card out of the Hive anyway, and I don't then have to discard a card, so I get to draw over Filter, which is even better. And I think they should have been able to look at my deck and see that I was almost certainly going to have at least 1 blob card, because you can click on your opponent's deck and see all of the cards they can possibly have. You can always look at your opponent's discard, you can always look at what is in your opponent's deck, though obviously not the order, and that includes what's potentially in their hand. So I get Trade Wheel and I get Factory World off of that, so they were never in a good spot here. From this, I have enough cash to buy Leviathan, which allows me to draw that last card as well, which is Corvette, so maybe they were on the right track. I then get to cycle my deck, buy the Cutter as well, why not? I'll buy the Cutter and the Swarmer so I can maximize my chances of getting a card with an ally ability. Of course. Cycle my deck, get Orbital Platform. Not ideal. And so, I mean, yes, I get a little bit... No, actually it does literally nothing for me this turn. I would have loved... Oh no, I had the Corvette. My bad. It does 5 more damage as a result. Not nothing. But I don't get to use its primary ability, because if I did, I'd then immediately discard that card. And so that would have gotten me Convoy Bot that I would have then had to discard. So definitely right decision not to use that. So they get the Peacekeeper and they get the command ship, so that means that Factory World is dead. The orbital platform also almost certainly dead. In fact, I suspect most of my bases will die this turn. But on the other hand, that means they are tying up 15 damage into destroying my bases, and none of it goes to me. So, not the worst. And in return, I get to do the same thing. I get to destroy the Capital World, big whoop. I get to destroy another Star Market. I get that cargo launch, which is, again, like, I'm never going to be sad to see it. It at least triggers ally abilities. It doesn't do much otherwise, but whatever. I get to destroy both of his bases and do a little bit of damage to him. Okay, so coming into this, he's got Command Center, Fortress Oblivion, and he's still got that Explorer, Probably, yeah, at least gets rid of the Explorer now. That was a pretty dead turn. In return, I get to draw a minimum of 3 cards. I get to destroy one of his bases. And I also get Factory World, and this is what seals the deal. Because with Factory World and the cash sitting in my hand, I can then buy Blob World, and I can buy Stellar Reef using the Ally ability, which puts it in my hand. So I then get to put that down, and I get to draw 4 cards off of Blob World. And then I even get the Hive, so I get to draw even more cards. Battle Pod, get to do that, and I've just got enough damage to flatten him. So this did not end up being very close at all. 50 to -4. So why did it not end up very close? What mistakes did my opponent make? Where did I go right? Okay, so he had a bad start. Nothing he could do about it, but I mean that does not help him. I had a relatively good start. I got the Hive. I was able to take the. I got the Hive. I got the Ram. I got the Bioformer. So I had cash in reserve, which allowed me to make that big purchase of the Factory World, which was definitely worked out in my favor. They got so that Star Market was definitely doing work for them. Don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think buying the captain and then scrapping him was not useful. Like that would have just been better to save until a future point when one is less one discard's rarely going to make a huge difference. Peacekeeper and the Fed Shuttle, Peacekeeper was also doing a lot of work for him. They were definitely going blue. The cards were not supporting it, and the trade row were not supporting it as well as he probably would have liked. And he got Explorers and kept Explorers around too long. I think that hurt the efficiency of the deck. What else? Don't think there's any other particularly big things. I think if they'd gone for some of the other things to give them cash, other than Explorers, like gone for Blob Wheel or maybe Embassy Yacht, who knows? Although I destroyed Embassy Yacht because I couldn't afford it, so. What else? Don't really see any big mistakes on either, other than that, right? Sorry, I don't see any other big mistakes. I got pretty lucky, and I was able to use that fairly effectively. So yeah, they also were able to at least get the command ship, and that gave them a fighting chance, but not enough of one. Things kind of just steamrolled from this point, where I could afford the big things when they came up, and when they didn't come up I was just doing a ton of damage. Preventing him from doing any real build-up. He was also able to prevent me from doing a big build-up of bases most of the time, but as soon as it came down to that last one, like this last turn, I didn't have any build-up, right? But being able to, getting Factory World sealed everything else. My entire strategy from that point hinged on being able to buy things with it. And that's all I needed. That was a lot of damage in one go. Alright, now let's go and look at the game that actually got me thinking about this series, right? This is the closest game of Star Realms I have ever had. It's against one of my friends from home who's only recently started playing Star Realms multiplayer, so we're actually using the base set here, which is, so we'll see significantly fewer cards come out in terms of, we're using a significantly smaller set of cards. So, starting turn, I got Trade Pod. It's a good starting card, but it's also not the best performer overall. And he got 4 cash, so he, again, we got a fairly expensive trade row. Battle Station's not very good. Trade Pod's the best choice there. What comes out next? Nothing he can afford. Explorer. Makes sense. I'm going to grab that ram, because again, battle stations is not really going to do it for us. But push comes to shove, it's better than getting 2 explorers, and so that's what Snoof does. I'm going to grab Embassy Yacht at this point, because hopefully I'll get the bases to make it work, even though I've invested nothing in bases thus far. So I got 5 cash, which isn't enough to get anything useful, so I'll scrap that ram, giving me 8, and get the blob carrier. So I'm effectively trading the ram for a better ram at a minimum. But maybe I should have gone for one of for like central office, and started moving more that way, especially since this significantly reduced my presence in blob. So yeah, that may have been a mistake in retrospect, when there were better options on the board, especially since, I mean, I had no way of knowing this, but TradeBot would have come out next. So if I'd gotten central office, I would have still had enough to get TradeBot, and that would have given me more purchasing power, cards going to the top of my deck. Yeah, I think that would have been a better move. And so Snoof gets Cutter, and that's yeah, a Cutter and an Explorer, right, and that's it. So I got Blob Carrier, which does give me enough damage straight away to destroy the battle station, and I'll get the space station, because that's right, I got that Embassy Yacht. It would be good to get that. And I'm not getting the blob support I need to reliably trigger ally abilities. So again, like, probably would have been a good move to get more bases. So TradeBot and Imperial Shuttle, Fed Shuttle, look, we're just not getting any blob, are we? Okay. So TradeBot gets me that cash, gets me the survey ship, and that's it. I'm not buying another Explorer if I can avoid it. And Snoof is, again, just, this is an expensive board. He's only got 5 cash. Get that blob wheel, get an Explorer, try and work your way out of that problem. So I got myself a space station and the blob carrier. So I've only got 3 cash, but I can convert the space station into that central office by scrapping it for cash. And that was a good move. I just could have gotten it over the blob earlier. So, yep. Port of call, blob wheel, Snoof suddenly able to afford cards. Definitely good for him, not good for me. What's looking worse is I won't be able to destroy the port of call this time. I definitely can't destroy it. That is even worse. So War World it is. So Snoof gets a significant cost advantage here, right? He's got so much more cash than I do. He's got enough to not just buy the brain world, but still has 2 left over to buy that Fed Shuttle and do a little bit of damage to me. Not looking good for me at this point. I'm pretty sure at this I'm expecting to lose well before this point. Okay. So I got a rainbow hand. I don't have any draw. I just I'm just getting what I can, which is the recycling station and destroying that port of call. That port of call had to go. Unfortunately for me, there wasn't much I could do about it until that point. So Snoof's got 6 cash. He's getting that flagship. So he's got a lot of nice high cost cards. He's also buying low cost cards, and maybe that is not helpful, because that is filling up his deck with stuff he really doesn't need. So I play out all my cards. I got 5 cash. Next ship goes to the top of my deck, which will be the Ram. First blob card in a while. Hopefully it'll let me get the carrier off at some point in the future, but also just gives me a little bit more damage, and that's it. I can't do any damage. I do buy that Explorer, probably because I've been hurting for cash. I've started to do that. The War World dies, and with it my hope for using the Embassy Yacht to draw 2 cards. But I'll live. At least I got that Ram, and he didn't get the central office, which allows me to potentially get the battle cruiser to the top of my deck. Interesting. What did I do there? So, yes, right. So I converted the Ram into the battle cruiser, which is not something I would have thought about doing looking at the replay here. But that's because I knew I could draw it. Of course. I'm cleverer than I think I am, perhaps. And that battle cruiser then lets me draw out, get a little bit more cash, and get a battle station, so hopefully I can use the Embassy Yacht again in the future. So Snoof is getting Brainworld, lets him discard cards, so it lets him scrap cards to draw cards. Really nice base to have, definitely never something to complain about. And so he's got a lot of damage sitting on the table here. It takes me down to 31. We're actually pretty even in terms of health right now, but he's got a better deck, in my opinion. Or my guess would have been he had a better deck. On the other hand, look at that. That is 28 cards in his deck. Even with Brainworld scrapping down, it will take him a while to get through. So maybe when I'm thinking about how good his deck is, I've missed the fact that he's bought a lot of cheap cards. So I get rid of the Brainworld, definitely a highest priority, and I'm getting cheap cards as well. But at least they're blob cards now. We're starting to see blob cards again. So I've got Supply Bot to allow me to scrap down, and I've got the Blob Fighter to hopefully trigger Blob Carrier, but also let me draw more cards. Okay, so this is definitely more cards than I want Snoof to be able to get down. That's 16 damage before I can start to hit him, and he's doing damage to me. I'm down to 16. Not happy, Jan. Not happy. And this is also a pretty dud turn. So if Snoof had a little bit more damage at this point, because he's got a minimum of 9 damage in hand right now. Not in hand, in play right now, with Defense Center, assuming he takes damage over anything else. So if I can't destroy anything, which I may not be able to, that's definitely not looking good for me. So what I'm really hoping for is to get something good with Survey Ship, which I do. Blob Fighter, that's probably what saves me here. So I can afford Blob World, which will be good when it comes up, if it comes up. But most importantly, I can destroy Defense Center or Port of Call. What do I do? I destroy Port of Call. Probably not the best plan there, actually. Long term it's good, but it doesn't help my short term survival prospects. Yes, I've just taken out potentially 4 of his damage. Oh, sorry, 2 of his damage. But that isn't much of the amount sitting on the table there. I probably should have taken out the Defense Center. I'm really lucky that he doesn't get another blue card. And so this, how much damage does he have? He's got 2 from there. He gets another 5 from that, 5 from the battle station. He nearly killed me. He takes me down to 1. That is, and he's on 36. He's in a really good spot right now. I really should have gone for the Defense Center over the Port of Call. On the other hand, he could have used the Port of Call to draw 1 more card, which could have potentially given him more. But I think it was definitely not the best move. So here I take out his Defense Center, and I've gained 7 health. So I'm really hoping he can't put 8 damage on the table, which he can't. He can put 7. He takes me right back down to 1. See what I meant when I said this is close. He's on 40, but I basically need to see what I can do to equalize here. Fortunately, I've got the battle station, the Royal Redoubt, and the central office, so I got effectively 11 extra health as long as he's got no instant base kill effects, which he doesn't. And central office allows me to set up for my next turn. So what do I grab? I get the Imperial Frigate, which is the best card I can afford. It'll also let me draw a card next turn. And that's it. Cycle the deck, and Mech World. So Mech World means I can also set up well next turn, because I can... Mech World will allow me to use my ally abilities. So the Blob Carrier can be used. But it all comes down to, can Snoof get 12 damage this turn? Unfortunately, he scrapped a lot of the high damage cards he had. And the answer here is no, he can scrape together 2 or 5 if he gets rid of the trading post, which is not enough. So that buys me 1 more turn. I need to win this turn, or I have lost. Okay, so next card to the top of the deck, that's good. War World, Mech World, and so I buy Battle Blob. I can actually afford Battle Blob outright, which is great. So then I can sacrifice the Imperial Frigate to draw Battle Blob. What's interesting here is I haven't used Blob Carrier's ally ability yet. I probably could have used it to grab like Patrol Mech, but I guess I decided I'd try and get something else. Really should have gotten Patrol Mech. But maybe I was hoping to get Blob World. I think I was hoping to get Blob World. So, yep, there's the Battle Mech. But I noticed here, okay, I scrap Battle Blob, 4 more damage. I need a total of 40 damage, right? Scrap Battle Station, 5 more damage. And then so the numbers actually show up at odd times here. So let's see. So I've played all these cards. What do we got? We've got 25 damage. Sorry. So there's 33. So I need a total at this point of I need 44 damage, right? So this gives me 35. So at this point I'm like, okay, what else can I do? So I get 4 more damage from Battle Blob, 5 more damage from Battle Station, total of 44, which is exactly enough so Snoof is destroyed. 0 to 1. That close. I literally could not have a closer game. If I could have gotten 1 less damage, I would have been dead. If he could have gotten 1 more damage a couple of turns ago, he would have been dead. Sorry, he would have won. Yeah, like that's all it came down to. So looking through this game shouldn't have been that close because I was making mistakes and he was making mistakes. So he was buying more cheap cards than he probably should have. He should have resisted the urge to get some of the Fed shuttles and things because his deck grew significantly. We didn't get many scrap cards coming up, so neither of us got to thin down our decks as much. He got the Brain World, which really would have helped, but it didn't come up well enough. I should not have got the Blob Carrier. I should have got the Central Office over the Blob Carrier. Much simpler choice. And that cost me a lot of time and momentum. On the other hand, he could have then potentially gotten the Blob Carrier and used that, but I don't think it would have made the same kind of difference. So what else? Maybe I needed to get more damaging cards, so I could have gotten rid of the Port of Call earlier. But I think maybe I shouldn't have gotten the Fed Shuttle. But I also really needed the cash. The survey ship there was an odd choice, because I think I had 7 cash. I should have gotten... Yeah. Okay. But I may have miscounted that. As I said, the numbers actually like showing up here don't seem to... They seem to show up and then get used ridiculously quickly. I really wish the replay feature was slightly slower. But yeah, so we got a Blob Carrier, we got a space station, and this is where I finally get that Central Office. And I wouldn't have needed to convert if I had already gotten that. Or I would have maybe converted for Machine Base, which would have given me some scrap. Or Royal Redoubt. But yeah. I couldn't really do anything here. I tried, but that didn't pay off. I wonder what, in fact, it could never have paid off. So I shouldn't have gotten rid of the Imperial Frigate. That was a mistake as well. When you can check what's in your deck, you really should do that before you make gambles, so you know the odds. So I think those are kind of the major ones. Snoof continuing to get things like the Fed Shuttle. Like, one left over. At this point in the game, when you've got a bunch of good cards, you don't want to water it down with Fed Shuttle. So yeah, Snoof needed to not buy as many cheap cards from mid-game onward. And I needed to, both of us were making mistakes relatively early on, which then has a bigger impact later on. But yeah, that was definitely one of the closest games I've ever had of Star Realms. It's really hard to get closer than 0 to 1. But it also shows the importance of when you do get to 1, it's not like you have definitely lost. You've got the time, you've got the potential to come back, especially if you've got enough bases to get in the way. and especially when they had to sacrifice what they could to get you down to 1. So those cards were not coming up again. Alright, until next time, got any comments? Please leave them below. I would really love feedback on this, what I could do to make it better. Is it accessible enough for someone that's unfamiliar with Star Realms? Does that matter? Anything, any mistakes you've seen that, or improvements I could make in my own playing, I would love to hear. But until next time, have a great day. Bye. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you spending the time and effort watching the videos I make. If you'd like to watch more, on the left there should be another video from this playlist. On the right there will be whatever YouTube recommends, and in the center there is a convenient subscribe button just in case you need it.